Welcome to the eAchieve Part-Time Student Orientation Part 1. The objectives of this orientation for Part 1 are to learn how to access our classes, to learn how to navigate our classes in Blackboard. Blackboard is the learning management system. Basically, it's the program we use to house all of our classes. And we're also going to learn how to find and submit work. So the first thing you need to know is, when does school start? Well, eAchieve Academy is actually the 4th high school in the school district of Waukesha. So we do follow the school district of Waukesha school calendar. That means that our first day of school for this school year, 2014, is going to be Tuesday, September 2nd. So on Tuesday, September 2nd, you need to get started right away in your eAchieve classes. So how do you get started in your eAchieve classes? It isn't like a face-to-face school where on the first day of school you go to school, go to your first hour class, the teacher begins class, and the first day of school is off and running. With eAchieve, you actually need to log in to your class and begin working. So to log into your class, you need to log into Blackboard. To do that, we go to eachieve.com. And in the upper right hand corner there is a tab that says Login. You need to click that and then you'll be brought to the main Blackboard login screen. You have been sent a username and password to log into Blackboard. So you need to log into Blackboard to access your classes. Now we recommend that when you log into your classes, we also log in at the same time into Google, into your school email account. Now your school email account, which you have also been sent, does not say @gmail.com. But it is a Gmail account. So you log into it through Google. We recommend that you get in the habit of logging into your school email account when you log into classes because eAchieve teachers primarily contact you through school email. So if you have your email open and your class is open, if an email comes through from one of your teachers, you can get that email while you're working on classes. It's just a good habit to get into, to log into both at the same time. So many students have asked, because many schools, not just in Waukesha, but all over the state of Wisconsin, are becoming one-to-one schools, which means that every student in the school has an iPad. So many students ask, can I do all of my work for my eAchieve classes on an iPad? The answer to that is not everything. You can do almost everything you need to do, but not exactly everything. If you are going to work on an iPad, there are 3 main apps you will have to have on your iPad. The first app is the Blackboard app. Obviously, since we use Blackboard for all of our classes, you need to have that app to be able to access your classes. The second app you need to have is the Blackboard Collaborate app. Now, Collaborate is the web conferencing program that we use at eAchieve to hold our e-sessions. Every eAchieve class has a 1-hour e-session each week. The times will vary depending on the teacher because the teacher sets the time. But these e-sessions are a time when we meet in this web conferencing program called Collaborate. Teachers can give a presentation, they can demonstrate a skill, they can answer questions from students. It really is like a class time, a 1-hour class time each week. And you need to have Blackboard Collaborate to be able to enter into those e-sessions with the teacher and your classmates. Now, we highly recommend students to attend those e-sessions live if they can. If you cannot attend live, we will record every e-session so that you can watch the recording later. But you need the Collaborate app to be able to watch the recordings as well. The third app you would need to have on your iPad is the Gmail app so that you can easily access your school email. As we talked about on the last slide, it's very important to be able to access your email while you are also accessing your classes. Now, the one thing that you cannot do on an iPad is access most of the online textbooks that we use at eAchieve. Most eAchieve classes do use an online textbook, and predominantly we use online textbooks from Hope McDougall. And unfortunately, these textbooks require Adobe Flash, so they don't work on iPads. So if you need to read a selection from your online textbook, or if you need to go view a specific video in your online textbook, you're not going to be able to do that on the iPad. You would have to go onto a computer to do that work in your online textbook. Most schools do have media centers or computer labs, though, where you could get onto a computer and do your work. So for most schools, you will be able to do this work at school. Now I'm going to take you on a quick tutorial to show you some basic navigation of classes once you are logged into Blackboard. This is the Blackboard homepage. You'll see that in the upper left-hand corner we have some general school announcements for all eAchieve students. In the upper right-hand corner we have social events, and remember that eAchieve students come from all over the state of Wisconsin, so our social events will be held periodically across the state. Right below social events we have your list of classes. Your eAchieve classes will appear on this list, as will a class called the Student Resource Center, which is it's just a resource class that all eAchieve students are enrolled in. That class will remain with you the entire time that you are an eAchieve student, and you can refer back to this resource class at any time. We'll be taking a look at the Student Resource Center, also known as the SRC, in just a moment. But first, let's look at an English class. So as you can see, all of the classes in eAchieve basically look the same once they're loaded. And to load the class, I just clicked on the title of the class from my classes list. At the top of the page, you'll see a banner of some kind that states the name of the class. Right below the banner, you'll see class announcements. Teachers post announcements each week, giving you important information that you need to know about the class, so you should check the announcements each week. And then over here to the left-hand side are all of the class buttons, and we use these buttons on the left-hand side to navigate the class. The buttons are placed in specific order. It should be in pretty much the same order no matter what eAchieve class you're enrolled in, and these buttons are placed in kind of order of importance, or order in which you would use them. So I'm going to start at the top and take you through all of the buttons going down and just explain what is in each button. We start with the Getting Started button. Clearly that's the button that you should start with. The teacher will include instructions under this button for how to get started in the class, specific instructions for how to start the specific class that you are in. Right under the Getting Started button is the Pace Chart button. If I click it, it opens the pace chart for the class. The pace chart breaks the class down week by week and tells you exactly what you should do each week in the class. Any items in red would be graded items, so that is an assessment that you need to complete and submit for a grade. The pace chart also includes reminders that progress reports are coming out, and we do progress reports 3 times a semester during weeks 4, 8, and 12. We highly recommend that you often come back to this pace chart and follow the pace chart and do your best to stay on pace. Students who stay on pace have a much greater likelihood of finishing the class on time and being successful in the class overall. If you get too many weeks off pace, it becomes much harder to finish a class by the deadline. You can print this pace chart off if you would like. You just would have to kind of highlight as I'm doing, copy the pace chart, and then paste it into, say, a Microsoft Word document, and you could print it out and then check things off as you complete them. So coming back to the main page here, underneath the pace chart button we have the Live eSessions button. Remember that each class has a 1-hour eSession each week. To get into that live class, you would use the link that's under the Live eSessions button. If you cannot attend the live eSession, then we strongly recommend that you watch the recorded eSession. If you click on the recorded eSessions button, there you can see that there are links here to watch the various eSessions. So if you wanted to watch the week 2 session, you would just click on this link here and it would open up the week 2 session for you. Right below the recorded eSessions button is the announcements button. That'll just take you back to kind of the original page that we were on that has the announcements on it. Course information button is an important button to check out when you first start the class. It has general information about the course, things like the course description and the learning targets for the class. The grading policies, this is extremely important to read so that you understand how you'll be graded in the class. Academic honesty information. Basically, this is going to provide information on how to avoid plagiarism in the class. And also netiquette information. Netiquette implies being polite and well-mannered in an online environment, and there will be more information about how to do that under this folder here. So it's good to read this information over, obviously, before you start the class, so you know what you're in for when you begin the class. And then right underneath the course information button, we have the staff information button. This is where you will find information on who your teacher is, how to contact your teacher, and also, very importantly, when your class eSession is. Because remember, the teacher sets the eSession time, so the times do vary. So you need to click on the staff information button to find out when your eSession is for your class. Now, right under staff information, you'll see, depending on the class, one of two things. In this class, there are 3 units for this semester, so I have the 3 units clearly delineated in 3 different buttons here on the side. Some teachers, rather than having unit buttons, will just have one button that says lessons. When you click on the lessons button, then they will break down the units into 3, or 3 or 4 or 5 unit folders. So then you just have to click into the unit folder to enter that unit. It doesn't matter either way. It's going to work the same way. These unit buttons or the lesson button that you will see are the buttons you will use to find and submit all work in eAchieve. I have to stress this very strongly. You don't email work to teachers. You don't find your work in outside areas. All work is going to be found and submitted right within Blackboard, right within your classes in these unit buttons or lesson button. So let's take a look at what this looks like. I'm going to click on Unit 4. It starts at the top with a little unit overview, so it kind of explains what this unit is about and which learning targets we'll be focusing on for this unit. I had a general review that I wanted them to do right away when they were starting the unit. It's a poetry unit, so I wanted them to review the elements of poetry and figurative language, so that review is right there for them to view before they even started the unit. And then there are 5 weeks in this unit, so we have our 5 weeks with our weekly folders. So if you were going to work on week 2 of the class, say, let's click into week 2. It basically has an explanation of what you need to do for Unit 2, what your reading assignment would be, and most eAchieve classes do use online textbooks, so it'll explain what you need to read in your online textbook. If you need to view something, for example, there's a tutorial linked here to view, you would click there and watch the tutorial that you need to view. All of that will be explained right here, and then usually at the bottom you will find any assignments that you have to do, whether it's a quiz or you have a little short assignment to do or a longer paper or a longer project. The explanation of that assignment will be here at the bottom, and the link to submit the assignment is the assignment title itself. You just click on the title and it'll take you into the link to actually submit the work. If it was a quiz, the title of the quiz, you just have to click it and it would take you right into the quiz. So like I said before, all work is found and submitted right within Blackboard. So the unit buttons and the lesson button are probably the most important buttons in your class because that's where your work is. Right underneath the unit buttons or the lesson button, you will see a collaboration button. And under the collaboration button, we house any tools that you would need to use to collaborate with your classmates. If your teacher is going to have you do any kind of discussion board posts, or wikis, or blogs, where you're going to be discussing and talking with your classmates, they would have the discussion board, the wikis, the blogs linked underneath the collaboration button. My Grades comes right underneath the collaboration button, and My Grades is a very important button because you have to click that to be able to see the grade book and see what your grades are. The gradebook is basically an order of due dates for the assignments. So you have to look for the assignment title. You'll see your grade on that right next to the assignment title. And then right under the assignment title, there's a little link that says comments, and if you click on that, it'll show you the teacher's comments and feedback, which is important to look at so that you know how to improve for the next assignment. The textbooks button is very important. And there would be a textbooks button in pretty much every class because most classes, as I said before, use an online textbook. And there will be a link in the textbooks button to actually enter into your online textbook. There may also be a little tutorial linked under the textbooks button for how to use your online textbook. The How-Tos button is a great place to check because teachers will link little tutorials for how to do different things in the class into the How-Tos button. For example, I have a tutorial here on how to create and share Google Doc, making a copy of Google Docs, submitting assignments in Blackboard. These are all things that you need to know how to do in order to really be able to, complete your work in eAchieve. We strongly encourage students to use Google Docs because your school email address is a Gmail account, so you have free access to Google Docs, and if you have access to this free program, why not use it? So if we're going to have you use that, we want to prepare you to use it and have you understand how to use Google Docs. So we have all these tutorials, quick, easy tutorials built into the how-tos buttons in our class. So if you're ever struggling to submit an assignment or to use a Google Doc or to use a program, I always say check your how-tos button in your class first and see if there's a tutorial there to help you. If there's not, then contact your teacher. And another button right underneath the how-tos button that you will find in all classes is the websites button. This is just a button where teachers will link any websites that students could find helpful for the class. So it could be any extra little websites that they want students to have access to. They'll link there. So those are all of the main buttons that you will find in all of your classes in eAchieve, and that's how you kind of navigate through your classes. Now I want to go back out to the main screen, and let's take a look at the Student Resource Center, which is the other class that you will always have access to. The Student Resource Center really is just a resource area for students, and I want to highlight a couple of the buttons that are in the Student Resource Center. The first one I want to highlight is the Lessons button. If I click on that, it says, "Welcome, click here to start your lessons." If I click on that link, there are 4 lessons here that students can view. And these are orientation lessons. So we would hope that students would view these 4 lessons before they start their eAchieve classes. These 4 lessons will take you further in depth into some of the topics that I'm covering in this tutorial. So I would highly recommend before you even begin your eAchieve class, take the time to come into the Student Resource Center, look over these 4 lessons. It'll take about an hour, and you'll have a full understanding of how to be an eAchieve student and how to complete your classes in eAchieve if you watch through these 4 lessons. Another button to pay attention to in the Student Resource Center is right underneath the Lessons button, the Assignments button. If I click on that, there's a couple of just demo assignments linked here. And these are obviously not worth anything. They are just for practice. It is much smarter to practice submitting assignments with these demo assignments than to try to go into your real eAchieve class and try to submit a real assignment, submit it incorrectly, have to contact your teacher, have your teacher reset it. That can be kind of a pain. So practice with these demo assignments. Go ahead and take the demo quizzes, submit the demo assignment, just practice so that you're prepared when you actually go into your real class and start your first real assignment. Another couple of other little buttons that are kind of helpful and interesting, the How-Tos and Video Demos button. There's tons of how-to little tutorials linked here for you to watch. Again, all different topics, Google Docs, submitting assignments, just general topics that students need to know. Underneath Met My Classes, we have My Logins. When you click the My Logins button, it's going to ask you to sign into the student intranet. You just use your Blackboard username and password for this. So you type in your Blackboard username and password, say login. You click on My Logins, and it will give you every login that you have as an eAchieve student for everything, every textbook, every program, everything. So if you ever forget where your logins are, like what your login is for a specific textbook, anything, just come to the Student Resource Center, click on My Logins, log into the intranet using your Blackboard login, and you can find all of your logins. Those are the main buttons that you would use in the Student Resource Center. There are several more things that are here underneath the Student Resource Center, several other things that you can kind of dig into and check out. Those are the main buttons that will be helpful to you. So now you understand how to enter into your classes, navigate through your classes, and look through and navigate the Student Resource Center. Part 2 of the orientation is going to delve more deeply into our expectations for all eAchieve students.